The Rough Drafts podcast is sponsored by Unicorn.com, the world's premier esport betting site. Log on today to bet on all your favorite esports titles at the simple click of a button. Choose your game, choose your team, earn unicoins, and who knows, maybe you'll earn enough to enter to win any number of fabulous prizes, such as Logitech peripherals or CSGO skins in their marketplace. Unicorn.com. Log on today.
Hello, Internet. This is Chase RedShirtKing Wassenar. I am a free agent, head coach, and analyst, as well as a contributor at Slingshot Esports. And welcome to the 4th edition of our World Championship Guess the Lines podcast. We have had a lot of fun trying to break down all of these gambling lines before they came down. And then wildcard teams like Albus Nox just don't seem to care about any of our analysis. So we've gotten to enjoy some fun world games along the way. I personally, if you followed my Twitter account, at RedShirtKing, shameless plug, you'll know that I was out for a lot of the earlier games today, but I have read a lot of things about the games. I followed all the live Twitters. I had Walter catching me up to date, so I feel ready to go and ready to extend my lead on this Guess the Lines challenge that we have going. And of course, this challenge would not be complete without my good friend and co-host, Walter Ceades Fedczuk. Walter, how you doing, man?
Well, you missed two pretty great games to start it, and then you lucked out. You lucker dog you, because you missed arguably the worst game of professional League of Legends I've ever had the displeasure of watching, and it was 73 minutes long, and God, I was tired as it was. And then that game and the just SKT drubbing of Aimee just put me to sleep. And the SKT game was great. It was vintage SKT, exactly what we expected, but it was just boring. It was a stereotypical SKT is going to win this game, and I'm just tired, and I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I can't
if it makes you
more
feel
games
better,
to watch.
I still have to watch this game before our preview, our recap podcast that we're going to do on Tuesday at Slingshot Esports.
Yes.
For those of you who are interested in that kind of thing. This is not a recap podcast. If you're looking for an analysis of what happened in Group D, you're going to have to wait till Tuesday. We are going to be focusing on what is happening tomorrow/today by the time you're listening to this. That is Sunday. Yeah. It is day 4 of the first week of the World Championship. We have groups A, B, and C to talk about. And we start with the group that we did not see today, which is Group C. And it starts with AHQ versus INTZ. Walter, INTZ, such a strong opening by taking out EDG. Seems like they crashed back down to earth against H2K. What do you think INTZ has to do if we're going to relive that upset magic that made this so much fun to watch for us?
Yeah. So, Revolta, Yang. Let's just talk for a second. Us three, just real quick. Why Revolta? Why didn't you go to Yang's lane at all in the game against H2K? Was there a wall? I know Trump has talked about wanting to build a wall between the U.S. and Mexico, but he did not build a wall in between top lane and your jungle. You can actually still go up there. It's not like the base gates where there's this invisible barrier or anything where you're not allowed to cross the threshold. You're not a vampire.
Oh, man.
None of these things. You can go gank. You can go kill the top laner and get your best player ahead and let him hard carry the game just like he did against EDG. Do you not remember how you won the game against EDG? It was literally you two putting the rest of your awful team on your shoulders and going, let's go, boys, hop in the backpack Yoda style. I can't come up with enough metaphors to describe what you correctly did in the game against EDG that you shouldn't have won, and what you didn't do in the game against H2K, which, that should have been the game you won. So,
it was weird.
Gank for Yang.
I mean, on the one hand, I think that a Rumble is kind of hard to gank for because it's intrinsically pushing forward. It doesn't leave a lot of room for an enemy to overextend just by the nature of the champion. But my counter to that is, why are you picking Rumble first rotation then? Like, there was no need. You hadn't seen what H2K, like H2K first picks the Karma, which probably shouldn't got out of pick and ban, but accepting that that happened, like, why do you feel a need to get Rumble of all things when there's so many other counters, so many other interesting things that you could do in the top lane, which would have given Yang more of a carry power? Because let's face it, the thing about Rumble is he's really good in team fights, but he cannot solo carry. There's a certain point at which Rumble hits his gold spike, and he's just no longer nearly as powerful as some of the other top laners that can scale more strongly into the late game. And Yang is the guy you need to play around. It just felt like INTZ played safe. It's like they had this game against EDG and they understood that they were the underdogs. And so they went all in, they went balls to the wall, and they really made a whole bunch of plays happen.
Yeah.
And then they realized that they could win that game. So maybe they don't need to be so aggressive against H2K. And I think that was a massive mistake. I think that, you know, spoiler alert, wildcard teams in general do their best when you have, you know, a team that understands that they are the underdogs and are willing to go all the way to try to pull off that victory.
Right.
INTZ did that against EDG. I don't think they did that against H2K. Do you think that they do that against AHQ? And if so, what does that mean for the line you give out?
I think they really need Chowie to play. Or Chowie not to play. They need Westor to play. So Talkers doesn't have such a hard time in the mid lane because Westor loses lane to pretty much anyone. I think he's lost lane to the Machi mid laner. Like, and I know I constantly beat up on Machi LMS fanboys, but that's literally because that's the only other team I know in the LMS outside of J Team who was good for most of the season, AHQ and Flash Wolves. So sorry, Machi, you're my scapegoat for the rest of Taiwan. He needs to not play Orianna. He needs to actually play something that has some sort of engagement in the laning phase. Like, I've seen 3 Oriannas now. I don't understand why people are playing this champion. Stop playing this champion. It's not working. Like, maybe it's good. Maybe it's still good, but it's not working. Like, stop playing it. So I kept AHQ as pretty heavy favorites, though. I have AHQ at minus 450.
Yeah, and to piggyback off your Orianna point, like, I think it's a good champion in general. Like, any champion that has an ultimate that can single-handedly turn a team fight will always have value, but you have to take into account what you're giving up. And what all the mid laners we've seen, you have the ability to dominate your lane, or you have this really nice scaling into the late game. Orianna has neither of those things. She is a team fight heavy champion that needs perfect setup, and if you're INTZ, that's not what you want to be counting on in this lane. That is a terrible idea. Please don't do it. That said, I have been so shell-shocked by Flash Wolves over the last 2 days that I have forgotten that I have a lot of reasons to still feel good about AHQ. I had it at minus 400. You had it almost exactly. It's minus 455.
Ooh.
Which puts INTZ at a really interesting plus 300. And it's one of those bets where I can't do it because I still have to believe that one Taiwanese team is going to be good. And for the record, if you remember my team-by-team previews, I did say I thought AHQ was the better team. That is stated on the record. But plus 300 for INTZ to remember what they did against EDG, it's in play. That's all I'm saying is it's in play.
We'll see. It's definitely interesting. We'll see. We'll see if they remember. We'll see if they remember what they did in that EDG game. That's all I can say.
And meanwhile, EDG seems to remember how to play like a League of Legends team. They're playing against H2K this week. They did not seem to struggle very much against AHQ, which, given how highly we thought EDG was going to be going into this group stage, that's not particularly surprising. It was surprising just how dominant it was after they had struggled so hard in game 1. Are we back on the EDG is really good bandwagon, or do you still have concerns going into this H2K game?
I still have concerns. From the play that we've seen from TSM and from EDG, I would now move TSM into that 3rd position. and I would put RNG right on the heels of EDG, despite the loss to Samsung for Royal. That being said, I don't care about the outcome of this game. All I care about is I need to double check the alternate streams, because that might be the first time I actually go over the alternate streams, because if it's not on Forgiven and Deft the entire game, I'm going to be really disappointed. That is the best bot lane matchup in this entire tournament, in my opinion. You're going to have two guys that are just going to be going at each other's throats the entire laning phase. And I think Deft has the advantage because he's a much better team fighter than Forgiven. But it's going to be so good to watch. It probably shouldn't be legal in most states to be allowed to watch this, because this is going to be an experience of that nature, if you catch my drift. Wink.
I mean, for people that enjoy bot lane battles, this is the kind of thing that goes on websites we can't name on a sponsored podcast. But it is one of those things. I'm 99% positive that is the breakdown that they're doing. I think that having Mako instead of Vander does make a big difference. I think that Clearlove finally woke up. I loved seeing him gank on like a level 3 Hecarim, which makes no sense whatsoever. It's a terrible idea. I have no idea why he picked the champion. I hated every single Hecarim performance I saw on Clearlove in the summer playoffs for China. And he said, screw it, I'm making it work anyway. And then he did. So
yeah, he did.
Whatever.
He did. He made it work.
Shows what I know as an analyst. Just the fact that it failed twice in historically bad fashion, I guess, doesn't mean anything at all. Where did you put the line for this game, Walter?
I put it at EDG minus 500. We have some pretty dominant games tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
there should be a lot of blowouts, which means that if there aren't blowouts, it's going to be a lot of fun. And if there are blowouts, we might actually go to bed at a reasonable hour for the first time in a long time. Which
hopefully.
Would be, for us East Coasters, that's a huge potential advantage.
We might be able to get through all of tomorrow in the time that it took for Cloud9 to beat Flash Wolves today. It is in play. I think we could get through 6 games tomorrow in 72 minutes.
You couldn't wait like 15 minutes to give me the Flash Wolves jokes?
Oh, hell
Just
no.
a little bit of time before I had to acknowledge.
You didn't watch that game live. You didn't lose 72 minutes of your life to that game live.
But see, I'm going to. Like, I'm going to
watch it at 2 times speed.
No, I'm not. I'm watching it in slow speed because I need to make sure I catch every little moment. Oh, God. And that's the masochist that I am to give the people what they want.
No.
I also had EDG at minus 500 for the record. It is EDG minus 556, which seems entirely reasonable. That puts H2K at plus 350. I wouldn't touch that.
Nope.
I don't think H2K is particularly good. I don't think most of Europe is particularly good. Which brings us to our next game, Albus Nox versus G2. G2 is now sitting in last place in Group A with an 0-2 record. Albus Nox coming out with the victory over CLG. Can we have some faith in the Russian team to prove that they are the true European representatives at this tournament? Or do you think that maybe, just maybe, this was a little bit of a fluky victory for them?
This was definitely a little bit of a fluky victory because I think CLG really played down to them. I'm a Syracuse Orangemen basketball fan. And I may have brought up this point before on certain other teams, but the Syracuse Orangemen are notorious for playing down to their competition. If you are bad, they play at your level. If you're the best team in the country, they play up to your level. It's this really weird thing that happens, and I think CLG was at fault for doing it on day 3, was they just didn't really respect Albus Nox, and they just got punished. If you go back and you look at it and you take away the names, it looks like a very even game. It looks like the teams are evenly skilled. It looks like the teams are evenly matched. It looks like, while there are mistakes that are exploited by both teams, it looks like these are 2 teams of equal skill levels. Then you put CLG and Albus Nox in it, and it looks even more like a clown fiesta because everyone's like, oh, Counter Logic Gaming got crushed by an IWC team. And Licrit made an excellent point in his interview, I think it's with ESPN, where he basically says it's not surprising CLG lost to an IWC team. Not that CLG is bad, but the IWC teams have improved massively. Obscurica wrote about it in an article that appeared on PvP Live. Like, these are the two best IWC teams that we have seen at a world championship. And it's happening in the same world championship, which means that the entire secondary region system has now elevated itself to the point where each team has a victory now. I think there's one more victory coming out of one of these teams.
Agreed.
So that's going to give them 3. And each year they've gotten progressively better. It was 1 with Kabooming Alliance. It was 2 with Pain. Now it's going to be 3. And honestly, I think it's time for Riot in Season 7 to really take a hard look at some of these secondary regions and go, okay, well, how can we better represent them? Because it's really showing that the more experienced these organizations and these regions get playing with the big dogs, the better they're getting.
Yeah. And it comes to the really tough problem that comes with League of Legends versus other esports, which is that it's so regionalized. You know, we keep everyone in this little bubble, and we assume that the bubbles are all equally weighted, which is absolutely absurd given how strong the Korean bubble has been compared to everyone else's bubble. But, you know, there are only 2 teams that have made it to the World Championship finals since Season 3, when these formal leagues were established. And even if you want to go a year back, all you get to do is add Taiwan. Like, as soon as Asian countries actually got access to the game and had it for more than a couple months before the tournament, they have dominated. And you look at the gap between these secondary regions like Russia, like Brazil, you know, even some of the regions that didn't make it, like Leon Gaming. If they were at this Worlds, I think they could take a game off of a couple of these teams. Like, you know, they're wired in a way. A lot of these teams, they're just begging for that kind of experience. And I don't know what it's going to take or what decisions have to be made by Riot in order to expand it out and get us to that point. But we really need to reconsider it because, you know, it's funny. We make all these jokes about, oh, the gap is closing. And if you look at how Korean teams are doing right now versus everyone else, not really. No, the gap is closing in the sense that the top 2 teams still appear, at least to me, to be Korean teams, and you know, there might be a Chinese team and a North American team in the top 4, but that's not a closed gap so much as a, you know, we're keeping within the same kind of realm, but we can definitively say the gap is closed between some of the lower tier European and North American teams and the best of the wildcard teams. That is definitively closed.
I would even say, you know, that the LMS has been an excellent wildcard team over the course of its history.
God damn it.
And it's just elevated all of those secondary regions up to the level of that of North America and Europe. And I mean, look at them. They had a Pool A seed this year. Like, great job for a wildcard region.
Well, Walter, I understand that you're saying these things because you realize I'm not allowed to curse you out on a sponsored podcast. I'm just letting you know that I have so many words that you as an audience can imagine me saying right now. I'm going to keep keeping my faith in AHQ. I'll get to my Flash Wolves disappointment in a bit. But for now, at least, G2 versus Albus Nox. Where do you think the line is, Walter?
Oh, I've got G2 at minus 600.
Yeah,
it hasn't closed that much.
Yeah, look. At the end of the day, like I like Albus Nox. Could they beat G2? Sure. I think G2 has some significant problems. I think everything I said about Perks is proven to be 100% correct, and everyone that gave me crap, including you, about that, I think I now have to look back and say, maybe Perks is a significant problem after all.
Let's not say that. Let's just ignore that point.
Yeah, let's ignore that point.
Let's ignore that point. That's not really true.
But for the rest of us that are willing to acknowledge that, even with that said, like, Trick still exists. We still have Sven and Mithy in the bot lane. It's going to take a lot for Albus Nox to get back-to-back victories.
Absolutely.
The actual line is G2 minus 667, which puts Albus Nox at plus 400. Which I'm just saying, like, this G2 team might just not be good.
No.
They're
I'm
0-2.
I'm talking you out of it right now. There's no.
Okay. Can I have 30 seconds for my case?
Take your 30 seconds.
Okay, here's my 30-second case.
Go ahead.
G2 is a team that we have seen before mentally does so much better when they're ahead.
Yeah.
All of the series that they've won to this point have been because they've gotten early leads in a series and then been able to dominate a best of 5 from there. They took 2 bad losses. Expect looks bad. Perks has been completely out of sorts. I think Kira is playing better than Perks at this tournament so far. I think that their strengths match up well with what the weaknesses are for G2. I think plus 400, there's a little bit of value there. It's in play.
There would be some value there, except I think that Young Buck and Ocelot physically beat their entire team this night in their hotel room, and I don't think they'll let them back into Europe if they lose to Albus Nox Luna later today.
That's fair. I will say the easy counter argument is, do you really see G2 going 0-3 in the first 3 games? And I have a hard time convincing myself of that. As much as I think it would be very funny.
Anything is possible at this World Championship. Let's just be honest. Anything is possible.
Look, the vacation meme really just wants to stay alive. Like, that's really all I'm getting from this. Like, even if they go to Korea, it's still somehow a vacation when it comes to G2. But we're going to move on to a Korean team that certainly has not taken a vacation. It's CLG versus ROX Tigers. CLG obviously coming off of a devastating loss. The last thing you want to do is lose to a Russian team. But one of the things that you were kind of texting me and keeping up with me as you watched the ROX Tigers today is that you feel like this team has some vulnerabilities here. What did you see in this team that makes you worried about their future?
I saw Smeb getting camped and dying over and over again. Just it was mindless. It was literally, if you watched the KT versus Samsung series, it was Trick coming up, getting into the side bush, Smeb going, I don't think he's there. And there was one where, granted, Trick had perfect positioning in that bush where Smeb threw a shuriken into it. And I think it was like the second or third time he died. Threw a shuriken into it, didn't hit anyone because Trick was all the way up against the wall knowing that he's probably going to throw a shuriken. Smeb takes a step back as if pondering, going, that didn't hit anything. Okay. Like, steps back up into his minion wave to hit a CS, and then Trick is boom. It was just, I don't know. Honestly, G2 had a really strong hold on that game until Smeb just hit the Mac Daddy of all Kennen ults. And it was a fantastic 4-man Kennen ult. But Kuro worries me slightly. Granted, in this matchup, he's against Hui, but their early game looks awful. I will say, I do want to thank you, ROX Tigers, because you have justified a statement that I've been saying, I think since Season 4 Worlds. Nocturne is back, baby. We got to see Nocturne. I was so excited. I was fist pumping in the air in the Discord channel, like hooting and hollering, like, yes, Nocturne.
As someone that has been podcasting with you for the 3rd Worlds in a row now, I can definitively say you have been waiting for Nocturne to finally make his moment on the world stage. Mate. I mean, I agree with you. I think that, just from the quick highlights that I watched and what I've read, this is what happens when we forget that Faker exists, right? We get all caught up and like, oh, but Smeb looks so great. And he had such a great LCK split. And I still think Smeb is a great top laner. I don't want to dismiss any of his accomplishments because he had a little bit of a weak laning phase in one game at a tournament. That would be silly. And obviously he had a great ult to end up winning the game for this team. Mm-hmm. But this is the 2nd game in a row now where we're looking at ROX Tigers, and you have to ask the question, why is ROX needing these really almost perfect team fights to win games? Even against Albus Nox Luna, the first 10 minutes were strongly against them. That should not happen. That is not what Korean teams do. This is like we're supposed to, when we look at Korea, we look at teams that are methodical, that have a very clear process as to what to do so they don't allow for these kind of sloppy mistakes to happen, so that it's a very, clear cut, start to finish victory. This is what we just saw Samsung do against Royal Never Give Up. And we'll go into more detail on it on Tuesday. But we have seen Korean teams and what we should expect. SKT has put on a clinic in the 2 games that they've put on of exactly how this should work out. And Rox just isn't doing it. And I'm not sure if it's arrogance. I'm not sure if it's nerves. I've heard rumors behind the scenes that maybe this team isn't planning on staying together after this World Championship is done, which to me would certainly keep some focus. It would make it hard to be at my best at that situation. Obviously, they've had a lot of problems with sponsors and whatever. So I don't know what the problem is. I'm not claiming that I do. But I refuse to believe that this is the best version of Rox Tigers that was possible at this tournament. That's not what we've seen so far. And maybe it's as simple as they need NoFe to just beat it into them after a week and just tell them, like, guys, this is Worlds. I don't care what happens after this. I don't care that you think that these opponents in Group A are not particularly strong, which they're not, for the record. I don't think any of the teams in Group A are at Rox's level. You have to take them seriously. You have to play the best that you can, or you run the risk of doing what happened last split, where you gave up wins to the Flash Wolves that never should have happened, and you don't even end up being the top team in your group. Mm-hmm. Like, that can't happen. This Rox Tigers team has done too much in Korea. They need to get their act together. The good news is, after a devastating loss by CLG, I think they're in a good place to do that. Where do you think the line is on this game, Walter?
Yeah, Rox are still pretty heavy favorites to me. I have them at -600.
Yeah, see, I got nervous. I didn't want to go that high. I said -500. It is -667. That's CLG at +400, which I still wouldn't take CLG in that game. I think that's, it's one of those, stayaways. But at the same time, I think that we have to wonder, does Rox really go 6-0 in this group? The way they're playing right now, I'm not convinced that that'll be the case.
The problem is the way the other 3 teams are playing.
Yeah.
At what point do we say Albus Nox Luna? Do we say they're gonna have a chance again? Like, I just don't think so. That's the thing. Like, Smed, the reason people think he's the best player in the world is because, yeah, he does make that amazing Kennen ult, which I don't think there's anybody on those other 3 teams that are gonna make that kind of play in that exact moment that they needed with such a flawless execution. And that wasn't the only one he hit. He hit like 2 more later on in the game that were just as perfect. So
yeah,
I think they go 6-0 just because the quality of the teams around them are that poor.
Yeah, I mean, maybe G2 or CLG have a really great boot camp after a week, and they just figure out, like, what did we do wrong? Let's check over the film. Which, by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. Unpopular opinion. CLG fans, you'll know where to send your hate mail. It's on the video here. If you lose to a wildcard team, I don't want to see you on Twitter that night. I'm going to call Zix out right now. Zix, I think you're a good coach. I think you have the ability to be a really smart mind. I don't want to see you on Twitter after you lose to a Russian wildcard team. It's unacceptable. Like, that was an unacceptable loss by your team. You should be in the hotel room, watching film, getting your stuff together. Like, as someone who has coached a team in the past, I can't believe that you found time to be on Twitter and make snarky comments about the spectator client. Like, get your stuff together, man. Get this team ready to go, because you just lost to a Russian team that you cannot afford to lose to. You have given G2 a path back into this group. That is unacceptable to me. And now you have to play the Rox Tigers tomorrow. What in the world are you doing, Zix? I don't get it. I understand that there's this habit that personalities, coaches love to be on Reddit. People love to be on Twitter and make these kind of things and whatever else. You have a job to do. You're at Worlds. Do your job. It shouldn't be that hard. That's a personal gripe. Again, CLG fans, feel free to send your hate mail my way. But you know what? Honestly, if you're a CLG fan, I think you would have preferred Zix to be looking at film instead of tweeting as well. I don't think that's going to be surprising to you. Let's just move on, because otherwise this podcast is going to be nothing but death threats towards me.
It's okay. You can send your vitriol about that to the Flash Wolves, because they look awful.
Can I take a minute here before I turn this over to you?
I literally have nothing to say about Flash Wolves other than we say H2K doesn't know how to end a game. Like, Flash Wolves had leads in both games that they've played so far and have given them away in just utterly spectacular fashion. So you take your moment. I feel utterly vindicated for not trusting the LMS at all. So the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, I don't think we should judge Taiwan by one team. AHQ's done what we should expect from them. Well, of course you are, because you wanted to hate Taiwan in the first place. But I said at the beginning, I thought that AHQ was the better team of the two. I thought that Flash Wolves lucked into the number 1 seed because AHQ threw that series. And I thought that when they were going to be tested on the world stage, I thought Flash Wolves had problems. I did not realize the problems were this severe. This is embarrassing. This is a genuine embarrassment. This is one of the worst Pool 1 performances that we have ever seen. I don't even know. I'm trying to go through my head and think of Pool 1 teams that I can compare it to. I guess you can say like Alliance when they didn't get out of groups. I believe they were. Yeah, LGD would be the
last year.
LGD is probably the most obvious one.
There we go.
That's fair. But I mean, at least with LGD, like when they lost bad. You were just like, it was like shocking. Oh my God, I can't believe LGD lost. But it was so clearly defined. Like, well, LGD just isn't ready for this tournament. Flash Wolves have had 2 winnable games. It was in their hands. They did everything right. They got Karza set up, ready to go. They got Maple in a good position heading into the mid game. They had the towers. They had the objectives. And they're just failing at such simple things. And it's mind-boggling. It's just, how do you get to the point where you're able to qualify for the World Championship and not understand some of the most basic mechanics of what it takes to win a game? Because it's not just the late game. It's the fact that they can't take this mid-game lead and take simple objectives. The game 1 that they lost, where they couldn't take the mid lane tower until like the 45-minute mark. That is atrocious. In this game 2, the way they played against Cloud9, they allowed so many other objectives to get taken across the map before they cleared things that should have easily been in their favor. They just keep leaving all of these openings for teams to come in, and you're playing teams like the rest of the world is too good. If you give them an opening to punish your mistakes, they will take it. You cannot just assume that you are going to win that 68-minute team fight. And all it took was Meteos making one Lee Sin play. And Meteos played terribly the entire game. Watching the highlights, seeing everyone's comments, Meteos looked atrocious. But you gave him so much time that he accidentally won Cloud9 the game. That's where we are now. And honestly, that is unacceptable. It's unacceptable for Flash Wolves, and it's unacceptable for Taiwan. It's unacceptable for a Pool 1 team. It's unacceptable for a Power Region team. It's unacceptable. I'm a wild card team that played the way they did those last 2 games. I would consider it unacceptable. Even Albus Nox and INTZ have won a game, and they've been able to win when they have those kind of leads. It is embarrassing. It is an absolute embarrassment. Wow. And this is exactly what Obscurica pointed out when he, this is the thing, right? Like, you can blame me. I picked both LMS teams to get out of the group. That's on me. I made a mistake. Flash Wolves have clearly shown that they don't deserve any respect on this international stage with the 2 performances they put out there. I'm still going to keep my faith in AHQ. I still like what AHQ is doing right now, but I am so done with Flash Wolves. And poor Obscurica just keeps getting so many tweets directed at him like, oh, I thought the LMS was going to be good because you told me. And he's like, I wrote an entire article about why I didn't think why I thought this exact failure was going to happen. So don't blame Obscurica. Blame me. Let all the hate come my way. I am sorry. I am repenting. This rant is a repentance on leading people to believe that Flash Wolves would be a good Pool 1 team.
There is no absolution.
Sorry.
There is no absolution for the sin, my son. There is no amount of Hail Marys that you can say.
Faker will bring absolution. It'll come in the form of
there is none for you.
And beatings.
There is none for you, though, my friend. But there definitely is for Flash Wolves. And despite everything that you said, out of any of the potential upsets that might happen tomorrow, this is the one that I think is most likely to happen.
Look, Flash Wolves beat Rocks Tigers twice in the group last year. Like, they
beat SK twice.
Yeah,
at MSI.
This is the weird thing, right? Like, you talk about a team that plays with their opponents. Flash Wolves plays with their opponents. Like, that has historically been a problem for them. that they just, they played down to Cloud9, they played down to IMA despite these leads. Now, granted, I'm done. I'm done with this team. I'm sinking all of my LMS hope into AHQ, who I genuinely think will get out of that group. I think they are good enough to get out of Group C. I'm done with Flash Wolves. But if they beat SKT tomorrow, I'm not going to pretend to be surprised. I'm just going to throw my hands up in the air and say, well, it's Flash Wolves. And that's just going to be the end of it. Now, that said, I think we can both agree that's not where Vegas is going to see the odds. I don't think Vegas is going to give us...
If you do want to gamble on one of the upsets, it's going to be this one, and you're going to have some fantastic odds. Because I guessed that it was SKT minus 600.
And I did as well. And the actual line is SKT minus 500, which I thought was rather restrained. Because if it was me, I would make it SKT minus 1,000 because I hate this Flash Wolves team so much. Because they've given false hope. But I mean, this is the thing, right? If you don't care about the LMS or Taiwan or the Flash Wolves in particular,
like myself,
if you're not a huge Karza fan, then what you look at it, you say these are 2 wins that Flash Wolves should have had.
Yep.
And in an alternate universe, they are 2-0 right now, and we're having an entirely different discussion. Now, unfortunately, in a 6-game group stage, those 2 losses are going to probably be more than enough to eliminate them from the group. It is very difficult to start 0-2 and then have to play a Korean team. Like it is a must-win game against Faker tomorrow for Flash Wolves. That is not a position I think any team wants to be in the slightest. But if you do think they might be there, you have the chance to go, Flash Wolves plus 325. I mean, it's in play. Flash Wolves has done this before. Let's go to what's probably the game of the night because it's the only game that seems to be close. It's not a game between 2 good teams, but it's a game between 2 teams that are relatively close in skill level.
I don't want to waste any more of my time on Cloud9 and their horrible pick bans and their horrible macro play and their horrible Lee Sin player. I don't want to waste any more of my life on them. I'm done. I'm out.
I at least want to say I don't know what happened to Reaper since the last time that we talked. I went on that big rant during the, when we saw the draw come in for Worlds about how
he deserved Coach of the Year. He deserved Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year.
I thought he did. I still think that he did for the regular season. I don't know what happened. No. I don't know if he had a stroke or if he just is suffering from a concussion right now, or if if Reaper just got, someone put a gas mask over him and dragged him to the side and put up a Reaper imposter.
Here's what happened. His private server with all of his pick ban data for Worlds was hacked, and then he destroyed his cell phone, which was the only way he could access it, with a hammer. See, folks, I can make jokes on both sides of the aisle. There we go. Vote Cthulhu 2016.
I think I'd feel more comfortable with Cthulhu than I would with either Cloud9 or IMA at the very least. I
feel more comfortable with IMA. IMA has shown they can close a game.
I don't know. I'm still not convinced by them, and maybe it's just because it was that Flash Wolves game. But I'll put it this way: every Chinese analyst, the first tweet that came out after that IMA victory was, "Oh look, another IMA victory they completely didn't deserve." And having watched so many games of them at regionals and at the in the summer playoffs, they won series against World Elite, they absolutely did not deserve to win. They lost series to a team like Royal Never Give Up when Royal Never Give Up was playing the worst that they did for an entire year. Them beating Flash Wolves once when Flash Wolves are playing so badly that I literally took 4 minutes to talk about how badly I feel about the Flash Wolves right now. Mm-hmm. That's not enough to make me feel good about that team. That's
totally fine because you know what? All those same LPL analysts were making jokes about, oh my god, IMA might actually win this group. So, because of how poorly Flash Wolves and Cloud9 look. I don't think they're going to win the group, but they're now my favorite to get out of it.
I mean, they could get out of it. I mean, it's in play, and this game is going to be huge for that. I mean, obviously, if you're Flash Wolves, you're hoping that IMA does win because it's quite possible that, at the very least, whichever team wins tomorrow, Flash Wolves have to be desperately hoping that the other team wins the second time around and that they can beat both of them and there's a 3-way tie at 2 and 4.
Yep.
That's the Flash Wolves' only chance.
Yes.
And Cloud9 and IMA are both sloppy enough that it is in play if Flash Wolves gets their act together.
I think it's in play that none of them win another game, and SKT somehow manages to go like 12-0 in this group. I think that is actually a possible.
I genuinely.
It's a genuine chance. Like they could just go 12-0, and everyone will be like, "How did SKT go 12-0?" Oh, because it's Faker.
I'm at the point where I feel bad that I was excited about Group B. Like, Group B is now a group that I dread watching because it's just 3 teams that don't know how to close a game and just an angry Faker who's like, can we get to the finals already? Like, can I just grab my World Championship trophy and get my 3rd skin in League of Legends, please?
If I eat more broccoli, will you guys just give me a free pass to Rocks? Yeah.
All of that said, where did you put the line, Walter?
I have Cloud9 at -180 because Western bias, and no one thinks IMA is actually any good, and I think they are better than people are giving them credit for, and Cloud9 is a dumpster fire that requires Jack to come out on stage afterwards and give Cloud9 the reassuring father rub of the shoulders and pat on the back to Meteos and go, no, you did fine. You did great. You see, you did it. It took you an hour, almost an hour and a half, but you finally figured out how to pull off an insec.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, look, I had Cloud9 at -180 for the exact same reason. I just figured, I haven't seen enough from IMA. I thought SKT dismantled them so thoroughly that I didn't put a lot of stock into it. It is actually Cloud9 -125. So it's IMA at -105 as the underdog.
Oh, I wanted to make money on this game.
I mean, you still can. I think -105 is fine.
It's very little. It's just not great value.
It's not the
it's
value
not what I expected.
Yeah, it's not nearly as high as I think we would both expect. But just remember, these lines do move. We are recording this at 3:45 a.m. on Sunday morning. By the time you guys get this at 11 a.m., the unicorn line will have moved a little bit. So maybe things will move. I have a feeling it'll move in the opposite direction. I think IMA could be favored by the time the game starts. Because I think you're going to get a lot of Western fans that wake up and saw that it took 72 minutes for Cloud9 to beat Flash Wolves and look at how many plays that Meteos screwed up and say, I don't want to bet on that. Anything is really in play. The most important thing for you, Walter, is that despite the fact that we had the exact same line for 4 or 6 of these, yeah, you made up a 2-point difference. So it is now 16-13 after the first week.
Yeah.
You're within 3. That's a good place to be. If you're within 3, well, we've got 24 games to go before we even get to the quarterfinals. I think that's a good place to be.
You quaking in your boots yet?
No. I mean, I'm not the Flash Wolves. I actually still have potential left, but in another situation, maybe. I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens next week because there are so many games that we pointed out here that just feel like sheer blowouts, and I really hope that at least one of these teams surprises us. Mm-hmm. Because any one of these big upsets that we talked about in the first 5 games completely dismantles the group, puts us in the same position that we're looking at in Group D where anything can happen, and that's when World starts getting fun. I don't want to see these clear breakdowns right now where SKT looks invincible and Rocks Tigers just can't lose anything.
But here's the thing, though. SKT and Rocks are both probably going to get out of, are almost assured to get out of their groups. Behind them, it's a train wreck. We don't know which team is going to come out behind them. Even the same thing with the EDG group. EDG just looks a little bit weaker. There is a chance they might not make it out as the number 1 seed.
Well,
but, every group is a cluster bleed.
I want to see AHQ versus INTZ. I want to see one of these teams win in a dominant fashion. I want to feel good about one of these teams heading into the second.
Listen.
I want to see Albus Nox or G2 show some signs of life. I want to see Flash Wolves either roll over and die so I can bury them already, or I want to see Cloud9 or IMA show that they actually deserve to be a quarterfinalist at the World Championship.
And you'll see it. You'll see some glimmer and be like, okay, I guess that's the team that's second. And then next week when they all have to play in one day, we're going to sit here after 2 games and go, oh my God, what's happening?
Look, welcome to Worlds. It's a beautiful disgusting tournament
so
of
good
champions and absolute messes, and I love every second of it. And
this tournament is drawing me back. It's slowly chipping away at my hearted resolve that the International is the best esports tournament of the year. This tournament's awesome.
Every time you think you're out, man, they pull you back in. And we hope that we're going to keep you guys in on this podcast. If you enjoyed what you listened to here, you should definitely subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube right now, hit that nice subscribe button on YouTube. It really helps us out. Please leave comments. We read everyone, and we really appreciate the feedback as we're trying to make sure we we get the most out of this format possible. If you are listening audio-wise, obviously soundcloud.com/esportsroughdrafts. We're on iTunes if you search for the Rough Drafts podcast on there. You can subscribe on both of those places. And again, we do read all the comments and reviews. They really do mean a lot to us. So please do that if you're enjoying it. Like we said before, we are going to be doing our Week 1 recap show on Tuesday. There will be no show tomorrow. We will be doing it on Tuesday. It will be on slingshotesports.com. It'll be a full recap of the week. We may or may not decide to stream it live on Monday night. We're still trying to figure out the semantics of that. But you know what? You'll find out about that if you follow the podcast at Rough Drafts Pod, which is great for all of the podcast news. Plus, it's great if you enjoy live tweeting. That's where we've been doing all of the live tweeting. It was a little bit later today because I made a choice to make some family time. But I will be back in full swing for tomorrow's games. And I might even go back and, as I'm watching the games that I missed today, give you guys some retroactive feedback on the mess that was Flash Wolves versus Cloud9. So definitely subscribe there. And if you want to talk to either of us individually about anything we said on this show, God knows there are some CLG fans that I'm sure want to talk to me after I insulted their head coach. You can find me at RedShirtKing. Walter, where can the nice people at home find you?
So you guys can find me at Ceades_LOL. And, I got to go get some Halloween decorations for the house this weekend. And I think I'm just going to get a projector and just a nice large white sheet. I'm just going to put it on the front of the house with a couple chairs out front. And I think I'm just going to air that Flash Wolves versus Cloud9 game on repeat because I cannot think of anything scarier than having to watch that game over and over and over.
I'm going to stick to the Renegades Dignitas game to show that clip and then tell kids as they run up to the house, guess what? They were paid professional salaries for this. And they'll go, ah! And run away from your house screaming. Like, at least you got that going for you there. That's my nightmare. But actually, I don't know why I said that. I'm living my nightmare by watching this Flash Wolves team every week. We'll see what happens. Enjoy the games tomorrow. And until next time, goodbye, Internet.